Good morning, everyone. This is Chris Haddon with Greenshades Software. Hope everyone is doing well today. I'm going to be the one from Greenshades today running through the Affordable Care Act presentation. I've got quite a bit of information that I'm hoping to get through in about 15 to 20 minutes. But definitely appreciate everyone's time today. And as we're going through this, if you do have any questions, just feel free to type those into the chat window right within the GoToWebinar, and I will be happy to address those at the end. And of course, if anyone needs any follow-up information, just certainly reach out to us afterwards and let us know, and we'll be happy to assist with that. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and get started here. I believe most of you are most likely familiar with Greenshades, but in case there's anybody on the call who's not too familiar with Greenshades, a little bit of background on us. We have spent the last 20 years or so being payroll experts on a daily basis, assisting our clients in running payroll in-house and managing payroll compliance, payroll tax compliance, human resources. All of those things have been something that we've been thriving on, and we truly do enjoy doing that and helping our clients. So when the Affordable Care Act came out and these new regulations and requirements, it was really just quite natural that we would be jumping in and assisting our clients with this. So, what exactly can Greenshades do? Well, in short, it's all about compliance. We're going to go through in the second half of the presentation, go through some of the solutions we have in more detail. But it's really all about ensuring that you can transition into the first year of the Affordable Care Act, being 2015, and be able to make sure that you're staying compliant without having to spend too much time and too many resources really dealing with this. We want to help you make it as manageable as possible. So to make sure that everyone is kind of on the same page with what exactly the requirements are for the Affordable Care Act, I'm going to go through and do kind of a high-level overview on this. Certainly we could talk about requirements alone for hours, but won't be taking up that much of your time today. So the first portion of the requirements are the employer share responsibility rules. So what this is saying in short is that if you have more than 50 full-time equivalent employees, then you would be responsible to offer those employees considered full-time and those full-time employees' dependents, you would be required to offer them health insurance. So that is something that you would certainly need to be aware of. Now, there's some common questions that are coming up when we talk about this with other businesses out there, which is why I'm going to address some of those questions on the next few screens. So the first kind of logical question is, well, does it apply to me? Do I have to participate? Am I required to offer insurance and all of those fun things? And in short, it depends on the size of your business. I mean, if you're considered an applicable large employer, you will be required to participate. For 2015, 2015 is considered a transition year for the Affordable Care Act, so the requirements are not quite as strict. For 2015, any business with 100 or more full-time equivalent employees is required to participate, and then the following year, January 1st of 2016, it will drop down to the regular amount of businesses with 50 or more full-time equivalent employees. It is also important that everyone is aware of the actual definition and calculation used to determine the full-time equivalency. It is not just the number of employees that you have that you consider full-time. It's actually averaging the hours over the number of weeks that you're averaging out of all of your employees who are under 30 hours per week. It's doing an average calculation to determine how many equivalent employees they make up. So if you had maybe 200 part-time employees that were working 20 hours per week, that would actually come out to 125 full-time equivalent employees. So you just want to be aware of that so you can know, whether or not you have to participate and when you have to start participating. So as far as what actually happens if you don't comply, it ultimately will come down to a penalty. So you need to understand what exactly you would have to do to get this penalty and what you have to do to not get it. We would certainly want you to be able to avoid these penalties. So the first thing you need to know about is the coverage. I mean, you need to make sure that you're actually offering coverage, minimum essential coverage, to at least 95% of your full-time employees and their dependents. So that's something that you need to be tracking throughout the year. 2015, again, transition year, so the requirements of 2015 are only 70% of full-time employees would be required to have coverage offered to them, but the following year it'll jump back up. The other side of that is ensuring that the coverage that you're offering them also meets the requirements for affordability and is considered a minimum value plan. So if you're not doing that for your full-time employees, you will also end up in a situation where you can get a penalty that way. So to kind of define that a little bit more as to the type of health insurance that actually complies, minimum essential coverage is the base. So that is saying that you're offering this kind of base coverage to all of your full-time employees and their dependents. And then beyond that, you then have the plans that you know are a little bit more complicated to calculate, but you've got the plans that are considered a minimum value plan, meaning that there's not really too much out-of-pocket expenses for the employee, and then it has to be considered affordable coverage, meaning that it cannot exceed more than 9.5% or 9.56% technically of the employee's annual household income. Because it is challenging to know the employee's annual household income, you can also use a safe harbor option, which will base it off of the employee's actual wages. So the next question, who are considered full-time employees? So at this point we know, okay, we have to participate. We know what happens if we don't participate. Now how do we know who our full-time employees are? How many hours per week are the employees working on average, and that'll let you know. So if they work on average more than 30 hours per week, then you will have to consider them a full-time employee. If they're under that 30-hour threshold, they're going to be considered non-full-time according to the ACA. In theory, this is kind of a simple thing, right? I mean, hey, we just have to know how many hours the employee is working, but there are some situations that make this more challenging, one of those being unpaid leave factoring in, like FMLA and jury duty, those types of things. So you want to be aware of what hours actually count towards this calculation. And if you're dealing with employees that have an irregular schedule, part-time employees, seasonal employees, certainly new hires, anyone that is not working 40 hours per week every week from here moving forward, it gets a little bit more challenging. So we know now what the average hours are, right? They need to have more than 30 hours to be considered full-time. Now, how do we actually measure that? What are we looking at? Well, there's a measurement period, which is going to be defined as essentially the length of time that you're using for that average calculation to determine how many hours they're working on average, anywhere between 3 and 12 months, depending on what you select. There's a separate measurement period for new hires referred to as the initial measurement period. The administrative period is basically the time that you have to respond to that, how long you have to respond to those results and offer and provide insurance to those employees. And then the stability period is how long those employees, those full-time employees, are going to remain eligible for that insurance before they would have to go through the measurement period again. So the other side of the requirements here that we're talking about now are the employer reporting requirements. So at this point we've talked about what information what you need to look at to determine whether or not you have to comply, what type of insurance complies, who's considered full-time. Now we have to know what we are reporting and where it's getting reported to. So same type of business, 50 full-time equivalent employees or more. You're going to have information that you need to report to the IRS, and you're going to have information that you need to report to the employees, the recipients. So you've got the 1094-C, which is the form that's going to the IRS on an annual basis. It's going to have some company level details on that. And then you have the form 1095-C, which is going to the recipients or the employees. So any employee that's considered full-time and is eligible for insurance, you need to issue them this 1095-C. The screenshot that we have on the screen right here doesn't quite give it justice. You can't quite see everything on there, but when you look over this form, there's a lot of data that you're reporting, so you need to make sure that you're collecting this throughout the year. Even something as simple as knowing which dependents were covered, when they were covered, month by month, what their name is, all of that information, things that some companies just historically haven't done a great job of tracking. So you need to make sure that you know what information you actually need to be tracking so that you can stay compliant. There are electronic options that are available. Some of you will be actually required to submit electronically to the IRS, depending on how many 1095Cs you actually have. And then there's also some options, of course, for allowing the employees to consent to receive these 1095Cs electronically. So I kind of gave it away earlier and said that the 1094C was annual. So what do these do? They're due annually, and they're very similar to other types of tax forms that would be going out with a postmark date in January. Most other 1099 types, W-2s, you've got until the end of January to get those out the door. For the file going to the IRS, if you do it on paper, you have until the end of February, or specifically February 28th. And then when you are looking at the electronic route to the IRS for that 1095C and 1094C electronically to the IRS, you get an additional month, so you have until the end of March. Now, when do you actually have to start reporting this? You are urged to begin reporting for 2014 data. That would be coming here in just a couple of months, a few months from now. And then you are required to start reporting the following year. So you are required to be reporting for year 2015 data in early 2016, which means that you would need to be, of course, tracking information from day one in 2015. A lot of people are going to kind of view this as a test year, so they're going to report what they have for that 2014 and just kind of see how it comes out, but you certainly have options there. Now, there are some simplified reporting options that are available. If you make what is considered a qualifying offer to at least 98% of your employees, you're rewarded with a simplified report, basically. That would require you to offer kind of the best of the best in terms of plans and affordability and coverage, all of that, best of the best for 98% of your employees. And if you do that, again, you're rewarded with a kind of simplified reporting option. So at this point, we're talking about what the requirements are, who has to participate. Now, we're talking about how Greenshades can help. That is certainly something that we would like to do. We would like to help you stay compliant with these new regulations. So the little compliance wheel that we have here kind of breaks everything out, describing what are the different areas for compliance. So you've got eligibility, which is certainly something you need to be aware of, knowing which employees are actually eligible. Coverage, so ensuring that you have the right coverage in place. Enrollment, ensuring that you have a system that is straightforward and easy for the employee to follow, that is consistent across the board, and most importantly, a system that you can show, hey, I made this coverage available to the employee and they chose to opt out and waive that insurance, because that is something you'll need to be tracking. Analysis of the data, of course, understanding what will be most beneficial to the business, especially when you're deciding whether you want to, what exactly you want your measurement period to be, whether it's going to be 3 months or 12 months or anywhere in between. And then, of course, reporting, making sure that you have the right data to report to the IRS. So there are 4 total different products that Greenshades has to assist with the ACA regulations. 2 of those are dealing kind of with the reporting side, both to the IRS and to the employees, and the other 2 are systems that you can have in place the entire year to ensure that you are staying compliant. The first product that we're talking about here is the Dynamics Payroll Inspector. This product is specific to Dynamics GP. This is a system that can get installed right inside of Dynamics GP, and it's going to be looking at all of the information throughout the year, all of the employee payroll transactions, to see how many hours the employees are actually working, so you can know who you need to offer insurance to. This is all based on the measurement periods and stability periods that you've set up in the system, and then it's automatically checking as frequently as you want, up to every 15 minutes. If you have it running in the background, it can always be checking and alerting you anytime there's a change in eligibility. So if someone has completed their initial measurement period, they're a new hire, they've completed that, they're now eligible, or if someone has been eligible and now they're no longer considered full-time, the system's going to alert you of that as well. It's purely a compliance tool that's sitting there checking all the time to let you know, hey, you need to be offering insurance to these 10 employees or however many employees you have. Really simplified reports here that are listed out for you so you can have full visibility as to which employees need to have coverage and why. All of the hourly calculation and all of that's broken down there for you to be able to see. And of course, it's going to be tracking all that information throughout the year, so you have the data that you need to ultimately report to the IRS and report to the employee. The other side of this product is tracking the coverage throughout the year. So the first part of the Dynamics Payroll Inspector is letting you know which employees are actually eligible. The second part of it, it's all one module, so you just have to purchase one thing. The second part of it is ensuring that the coverage that you have in place meets the requirements. So the system can see who's considered full-time, who should be eligible for insurance, and then it's going to be looking at all of the payroll codes, the benefit codes, and deduction codes that you have set up. You're telling the system what's a minimum value plan, what's a minimum essential coverage, and then it's looking automatically to make sure that you didn't leave anyone out, make sure that you gave people insurance, the folks who are eligible. It's going to be tracking all of that for you, again, alerting you anytime you fall outside of that, and it's tracking the affordability so that you'll know anytime you come close to exceeding 9.56% of those employees' wages, the system's letting you know. So the idea here, of course, is that it's going to be catching this information before the employee finds out, and of course, most importantly, before the IRS finds out. This is a tool that's going to have your back automatically, checking everything, letting you know anytime you need to make any adjustments. So the other product that we have to assist with the eligibility and the coverage is the benefits enrollment module. This is a product that some of you are probably already using. Certainly you might be using the employee services modules where you can post pay records and W-2s online. This is simply an add-on module to that. This is something that, in addition to doing all of these things for the Affordable Care Act, is also doing much more, really everything around the benefit system. So this is a product that has been in place for multiple years now, but it has simply been enhanced to meet these new requirements for the Affordable Care Act. So all the eligibility and coverage tracking is all in place, and this is a product that can be used with any payroll system, so it doesn't have to be just Dynamics GP. It's alerting the employee when they become eligible for insurance. They can go through open enrollment here, they can go through new hire enrollment, they can do qualifying life events through here. Full visibility to the employee to be able to access this information at any point, and full-time visibility to you as the employer on the employer side of the portal, where you can see everything that's happening. And one of the best things about it too is that it is requiring the employee to either enroll in the insurance or opt out of it, and it's tracking them as they do that. So you have that time and date stamp in place saying this employee signed off that they chose to waive coverage. You have all of that, and of course it's tracking everything throughout the year to make the year-end reporting a breeze, and of course it's collecting all the dependent information that you would need for that 1095-C. So this option right here is, or this screen rather, is really just letting you know kind of what the reporting options are. Depending on how you want to track everything and what other systems you're using, we've got a lot of flexibility here. We want to, look at what needs to be reported to the IRS, and we want to look at and handle what is getting reported to the employees. So the 1095-C, as I mentioned earlier, is going out to the employees. It's pulling all the data from these systems, whether it's the Dynamics Payroll Inspector or the Benefits Enrollment Module. So the 1095-C information for the employee can be posted onto the employee portal for the employees to download electronically, or Certainly you can print it in-house if you want. We're going to put it in a PDF format so you can print it to blank perforated paper. And if you say, hey, I've got a handful of 1095Cs that need to go out the door still, I don't feel like printing them, you can hand them to our mail service team. We do over 1 million tax forms every year. We certainly have the resources to assist with that. So you can just hand them over to Greenshades for a small fee. We'll take care of all of those mailed out forms for you. And then in February or March, you'll need to submit the 1095 and 1094C to the IRS. So you can do that through the Greenshades system as well. So those are kind of the last two modules, both the 1095C uploads for the year informers module, and then the e-filing to the IRS, the specific licensing as the Greenshades Center for 1099. So some of you actually already have the licensing to do that. So kind of to wrap everything up, we let us handle that. I mean, that's what we are the experts at doing. It's what we've been doing for a long time. We've already helped a lot of clients already with the Affordable Care Act. We'd love to assist you guys further. Most of you, we already have a relationship in place with you, so we'd love to extend that. And you're going to keep you compliant in 2015 and beyond when it comes to the Affordable Care Act. I don't see that any questions have come in. I definitely appreciate everyone's time today. If you need any follow-up information at all, just reach out to us and let us know. Thanks so much. Hope everyone has a wonderful day.